Welcome to the Tenant Podcast. My name is Todd Pearson. I'm here with my good friend and partner, Wes Brown in South Dakota.
Live in Rapid City.
And today we have the honor and privilege of sitting down with Dan Drossman. He's an artist that currently lives in Denver, Colorado. And I met him, I don't know, maybe 9 months or so ago. I was actually looking back at it, I think last summer maybe, at a exhibit or a show that he had in a architectural firm space, which was pretty cool. Anyway, Dan, glad to have you on the show. How you doing, man?
Great. Thank you very much for having me.
Man, I've been wanting to have you on for a long time because I think you're a really talented artist, and I like your stuff. It speaks to me. I know that, I don't know how. Let's get into this by you kind of describing or explaining what you do a little bit, because it's very different than most artists. It's very unique, and you definitely have a voice. So explain that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting trying to like organizing a website also is kind of, you're like taking, your work and trying to condense it. But I realize it's really all over the map, some of my stuff, it goes from kind of more, street arty, cartoony to, I don't know, my process changes a lot, or I don't really stick with one thing. It's more of a, day by day and piece by piece thing. And sometimes they kind of stay, the same path for a little while. But, I mean, basically, I'm focused on the line and the work, but like the process is kind of the most important thing to my work. So I kind of rely on the intuitive process, and each piece, I don't have an idea of what it's going to look like. I'm more focused on, this, how fast am I going to, push my brush or pen around, the speed of the stroke, and trying to access more like a unconscious process. And through that, if I do it right, I guess the themes kind of stick, but it always changes,
So you are originally from North Carolina, is that right?
Yeah. Grew up in Chapel Hill. Yeah.
Okay. Did you grow up in an artistic family?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, my mom is an artist. She's a jeweler and a sculptor, stone carver. She still does it. So, and my father's a doctor, but yeah, so I kind of grew up, and both sides were very supportive of my work. And I remember growing up, and I have this memory of they never took me out of the process of making art, unless it was very important, but like they kind of thought it was very important. So I kind of, went from there,
That's pretty cool that they were so encouraging,
Yeah. So, but yeah, so I basically grew up there, and, my mom, they still support me in terms of like my path, what I'm doing. And, it's nice to have. I know a lot of people don't get that,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you went to college, did you go to college for art too?
Yeah, I mean, I went with an art degree, and I was, I was an artist, but I also, at that time, I was also very focused on tennis, actually. So, so I went to a school, I was in Greensboro, called Guilford College,
right.
Undergrad, and I was focused, I did printmaking mostly. So wood cuts, lino cuts, and stuff like that. But I always kind of drew and stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of went there, and then, so.
Yeah, I like to research stuff. So I was looking at printmaking like last week, and man, that's involved stuff. I didn't really, and there's, like you said, there's wood block, there's whole, lithograph kind of style stuff, but I didn't realize how labor intensive a lot of that was, and the chemicals used in like the etchings and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is. It is a different process of, layering on top of things, and yeah, it can be very labor intensive, but I really, especially at that time, I really liked that kind of like take forever, long, detailed, and just kind of the excitement of like, oh, when this is all done, it's going to be great because all the labor,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a great, I haven't gone back to it in a while, but like you said, and, if you're going to do etchings, it's expensive and to get that, still do little wood cuts and stuff like that, but it's a great process. And, I think I learned a lot from it,
Yeah, I'm sure it did like influence your style and, the whole process thing. Yeah, I can imagine that.
Definitely.
And then you got your MFA from the School of Visual Arts, and that's
Yeah.
in New York City, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that was a great experience. I think I was in the time before I got there. I was living in Portland, Oregon, and just kind of like, hanging out, making art, and I don't, New York it was never on my map. But before, in Portland, I really started to make a shift in like really making a lot more art, and I did a lot of work, and I was like, I'm just going to apply. I was like, I feel like it's a long shot. They accept 50 people, or something, but if I get in, I'm going,
Right.
and I feel like I got lucky. I was like, all right,
Well,
so.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. If they limit to like 50 people a class or a year or whatever, that's incredible. That had to be very competitive for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I still don't, I think about it as like, what would happen if I never went there, but like I learned so much there about art and life and everything. So yeah, I think it was a very big change, so, and New York, it was never like, I didn't fit in the puzzle. Like I like more nature. I like a little more space and, not spending $7-8 on a beer in 2004,
Right.
So yeah, gained from it a little bit. Yeah.
So did your master's program, did that kind of lead you to where you're at today, or was it kind of a totally different avenue you were on?
In terms of just being here,
like if I was to look at your art today and what you were doing in your master's program.
Yes, huge. Yeah. I think when I came in, when I was in Portland, I kind of developed this style of these kind of cartoony, more, these wry figures and bright, loud colors and more like literal, like, no, I wouldn't say realism at all, but like, you could see these figures, and I didn't know like more, I think the depths of what it was to be an artist and the connections between art and life, but like the style itself changed when I got there. It started becoming more abstract, and more process based. I mean, it was still process based, but I started reading a lot, listening to my professors about, I remember one professor's talking, it's amazing. This guy, Jake Berteau, was talking about when do you suggest and when do you state, and when do you, if you look at a piece and that's an eye, that's a leg, that's whatever, in a sense, you get the idea, okay, that's done, and the painting seems to be dead. It's like, that's it. But then if you leave things suggesting like, oh, it could be this or turn this, and it kind of opens up so I myself can interpret it differently, different meanings, and other people leave it, they come in like, oh, that looks like this, or that reminds me of this. And it just kind of lives constantly. And I think the works, when I do that, myself as selfish myself, I view it differently as life goes on and things happen. I can view it differently. And I'm like, oh, wow, it means this now,
Right.
So I kind of, I think, so I went from that to very abstract to then kind of hovering the line between that abstraction and, figuration, I guess.
Right.
I kind of like always, since then, I just kind of like play with that line a little bit. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and I don't know who said it. I think it was a musician actually, and it may have been an actual artist, but they basically said, once you paint the art and you put it on the wall and open it to the mass, it just becomes theirs, and then it's open to their interpretation. And your original interpretation might be irrelevant, because they take the piece with them. It becomes the people's art.
Oh yeah, and that's I mean, a big part of my is, trying to. I never really like explaining, because of what my art is. It means there's reality of I've defined it, of what it is and what I see, but I've also redefined it and redefined it. But if I tell, people will come, say, "What does this mean?" Like. But like I like to, you take the power away from the viewer. Where, I usually, if anything, like to tell them after what I think and what it means to me. I could talk about my process, but it's not for me to tell. A lot of times. So yeah.
Yeah.
So do you keep a pretty regular routine? Are you drawing every day or creating every day?
Mostly, yeah. I go in these weird phases, or a lot of phases of, I'm making work, but then I'll take time off. But it's such the process working the way I do it, and I'm sure it's for me the, not knowing, and it can be grueling in terms of, I think 2 out of 10 pieces work, or that I like, so. When I get that in that groove where it's starting to work, I'll pull all-nighters. I'll do an all-nighter and a half, and then I don't want to stop. So I'll go. Sometimes I'll obsess about it for, until 1 or 2 pieces are done, and then sleep for a week, or like take a time off. But so yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, and if I'm not making it, I'm thinking about it as well. So, but yeah, it's a weird, a routine. It fluctuates.
When you get into that flow, do you just innately feel it at this point? Like, hey, I'm in the flow. I'm just going to keep with this.
Yeah. It's a lot of battle, a lot of it's almost like a meditative. I mean, it's a meditative state that when I'm really in that, and it usually takes 2 hours of making crap, or just not making, to start accessing that. And then it just kind of like, I kind of succumb. I give it up to it, and it starts to work, and everything's working. And so I'm like, I can't go to bed, or I can't, it's like the interesting process, and it's like that magic moment sometimes where it just starts to flow, and I'm kind of separated from, I think it's more for me, like analytical, or the balancing of, that a little more, and it's just kind of working. So yeah, it's very much.
I know last time that we were going to get together to do this, you were working on I think an album cover or something like that. And you were kind of on this deadline. And,
that's right. Yeah. I hate deadlines. Yeah.
I know.
That was at a First Friday, wasn't it? When I was down there, I think we ran into, and you were talking about that. Yeah.
That Bit Factory. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That was a good show. That last show at Bit Factory.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it was like a band from this area, Paranoid Image, good band, and they wanted actually the person whose band it was. I did a trade for him for my website. So
nice.
Yeah, they wanted me to listen to the music and give my own interpretation, and and they were nice about the deadline, because I was like, it could take a week, it could take a month, I don't know. They're like, yeah, I can respect that. So yeah, I got it done. That's good.
Yeah.
Sweet. Were you happy with it? I mean, it's a loaded question, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm happy because they were, and I, now looking back, I am, but usually right after, it's like I'm so like always uncertain, and just like, or I could have done more, or should go this way. It has nothing to do with the art itself, more as who I am at that moment of like, the last 3 months, I've just been indecisive about everything, or uncertain. So that'll show up in how I view the work,
Gotcha.
Leave that side out,
Yeah.
I can relate to that though, because I think sometimes when you create a piece, you've been working on it for however long and you're just too close to it. Like you got to give it some time to breathe. Or that's the way I feel with my photography sometimes. I'm like, I pretty much just hate it all. Cause like, I'm like, God, just like you think, oh, I could have done this different, or I should have, I should have realized that was going on in the background or whatever. But, I'm like, I have to be divorced from it for a little bit for me to have like a realistic perspective of it. Otherwise I'm like, you know what? It's just shit.
Yep. Yeah. It's 100% true. It's like there's this, and throughout the whole process, it's like this stepping back but like, yeah, sometimes, I feel like there's like two pieces I've had that I thought were unfinished and, it's been sitting, and then someone came by and was like, no, looks great. It's done. I was like, then that allowed me to look at it and like, oh yeah, maybe it is, but like, yeah, it's interesting. They can always be worked on, they can always be overworked, but yeah, it's an interesting situation with that.
And I think it's, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think that especially, this is just coming from my head, but when you're talking about abstract expressionism or something like that, let's say a de Kooning or I see a little bit of de Kooning in your stuff. I don't know why, but that's, I'm always connecting people dots or whatever. But I often when I'm looking at de Kooning or Pollock or anybody like that, I'm like, when do you know when you're done? And like you just kind of said, sometimes you don't, and you think you're not done. And then all of a sudden, or like, are you afraid of overworking? So it's kind of interesting when you look at that kind of abstract stuff. You can easily just keep working on it because you're not satisfied, maybe.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's like feel like, I mean, and if you're doing more of that abstract work is under a lot of my work, and this is for I think a lot of artists, like, is that there's there's layers and layers of I probably have like 7 paintings, and there's like maybe 5% of each in each layer. So if I don't like something, I could wipe that off, and so it can constantly change. And then yeah, there's this kind of moment sometimes, and I made the mistake of like I did a commission. I finished it like last week or something, and he was curious about the process of seeing the stages, and he liked the first one he showed. I was like, this is going to be great. And he said, he loved it. And then like the second one, I was like, oh, this is incredible. This is going to be, I'm really going to like it. He's like, no, don't overwork it. What do you, and I was like, trust me, it's going to be fine, but it's going to look different. But, I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to show maybe afterwards, but like, there's a lot that goes on in between, the lines. Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally understand that. You don't want to you don't want to see how the sausage is made sometimes, you just want to enjoy the sausage when it's done, because it's tasty, but watching it being made can be ugly. But yeah, that's a poor metaphor, but but I can totally see where, you're working through your process and he comes along and like loves where you're going. And then you kind of take it another direction. I could see where it could go either way. So, yeah.
And also, depending on how you are mentally with it, if someone says something, you're like, oh, God. But like, luckily I was like, no, I'm in that zone and it's going to come out. I've shown people, these open studios we go to, sometimes I'll show ones that are kind of like being worked on or not finished. And, it's like, they're like, it's done. I'm like, it is, and they're like, wait, no, I can't. You don't know what I'm going to do, or, it's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
We just talked to this artist down in Pueblo last week, Megan Wilbar. She posted some stuff like a day or so afterwards on Facebook of stuff that she was working on. And I was like, and it was a work in progress. She said that. But I'm like, what you just described, I was like, shit, you don't need to do anything. Like, that is perfect right there. So I'm glad I didn't interject on that. But literally it was beautiful as is. I'm like, where do you go?
Yeah.
where do you go from here?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's cool about people that paint and work in, different mediums and stuff, is that, I see the world through a lens of a camera, but I'm not like grabbing these ideas out of the universe, out of the, atmosphere, and like running with this vision. So I think it's always impressive, like how people's brains work, and especially artists.
I mean, on the other end, it's like, musicians or photographer, like, how do you come up with, it's just I think anything creative, is there something exciting about that, the unknown, that process. But yeah, showing the work, it's like, it's partly on me or on them, posting it and saying in progress, because they'll be like, oh, it's done, or like, just have to trust in your own vision in it.
You said earlier before we started this podcast that nothing has really changed during this weird time for you. Like, you seem like you've been, it appears at least, that you're as creative as you ever have been. And you actually sent Wes and I an email prior to this interview, and you let us see a bunch of stuff that you had been working on as of late. And it's pretty awesome, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, nothing has changed, it had, but like, still making art, this and that, but outside of that, yes, things have changed, but like, for the most part, I'm not completely social person, I'm not sad that all the bars are closed or like freaking out about it or any of that. So yeah, but like, yeah, it is interesting. And I was thinking about this before, of like waiting for the connection, but like around that time, my process shifted for the first time in years. I started adding these, and I've always wanted to, but maybe there's, becoming afraid of collage and kind of loosening up the deep, like, introspective psychological part of the process, and because I might not need it anymore, and then taking collage and taking some things, and it just shifted. So I have made like 2 or 3 that are different, and I'm really enjoying, so, which is, I think, for a while, but when you're working, in that process, it can struggle, it can be frustrating, and it's kind of nice for a change of like, oh, I like this. It's fun. Most of it is fun for me now,
That's cool. That's cool that you're in that space.
Yeah.
I had been on Facebook, and I saw the one that you posted on there, and you sent in the email, but your Aspen collage.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that one.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, man. And it's different, and it's cool. And I know that I didn't revisit it on Facebook, but I know at the time when you posted it, you were getting a lot of good feedback on that. Did you end up selling that piece?
Yeah, that was actually commission.
So it was a commission.
Yeah, so that was
okay.
That was the most recent one. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's first just the gut feeling of I want to do collage, but then there was something about like repurposing. Like, I basically would take, there's partial painting and process, but like then there's thousands of sketchbooks and drawings and even photographs that they're just sitting there, not finished, and cutting them up and repurposing them and kind of blending them into, the photograph, the drawing, the painting. And there's something about like taking things in our past that were insignificant or you don't like and using them for the present, so there's something about that I haven't fully figured out, but like, it's cool. It's like nothing's dead, and it's like, now I have sketchbooks and paintings and turning them in. I was like, oh, this would grow great here, and kind of blending it almost in a way that you can't tell if this part is paint or if this is a photograph or this is an old drawing, and kind of making it as uniform and not separate, so something deep in there, but not sure yet.
Yeah. So since I do really like this one, is like, when I saw this today, I was like, I'm looking at all your stuff, and I saw that one. I was like, oh, this is definitely one of my favorites. So I'm glad Todd pointed that out. So since this was a commission, so tell me, did they convey an idea what they wanted, or did they just say, I love your work and do something for me?
So yeah, most of those people who know my work or that, they've looked at my work. They're like, he said, I like all of it. And they know, I can't be like, he can't say, well, do this, it's just not going to work. But he said, he has a cabin in Steamboat Springs that he loves and it's special to him. And, he wanted to remember it while he's here, to have a piece. And he said, you do your thing, and, I would like the cabin, it doesn't have to be prominent. He loves the flowers there and the trees, and just go from there and make it a little different, but it's yours.
Right.
So yeah.
Because it feels a lot different from some of your others, because some of your other stuff is rather dark, in theme. When I'm looking at this, is very bright and airy and almost uplifting, and to produce this during, and I don't even know when you started this, but at this time frame, and then seeing this is some of your fresh stuff as we're going through this kind of weirdness is kind of interesting. And I don't know if there's a correlation there, but
yeah, that's one. When the process changes like it has, it's going to come out a little different, because it's not all like uprooting. When someone says they want flowers, it can't. How dark can it be? So, but yeah, it's I don't know if this is as connected, but like there's this kind of, you were saying, the happiness. I've been starting to really kind of get into this almost contradiction of like these darker themes with either like bright, lively colors, or or the object itself, flowers, with something really dark, and kind of playing with that full spectrum. So there's something fun with that. But yeah, internally, and this, I'm not but there's stuff down there that comes out. Probably if I didn't make it, I'd be really depressed or angry, or like, but it has to come out,
Right. Yeah. Well, this is kind of interesting. I'm sorry, Ty, I'm gonna just throw this out real quick. Okay. So, and I'm a huge Dan Fogelberg fan, back in the singer-songwriter, right? And he, at one time, he made a comment as like, he writes the best love songs when he's out of a relationship, and he writes the best breakup songs when he's in a relationship. Like, he could be madly in love with somebody, but he's writing some serious, I'm breaking up with you kind of songs. It's just interesting that, it's kind of a flip dichotomy or whatever. But so anyway.
Yeah. It's you need that space in between it, probably. Yeah.
Right.
Before we move on, I just want to say that this particular piece, this Aspen piece, I look at it and like Wes says, it's very different from a lot of your other stuff, not only process, but also the vibe of it. But when I look at this, it makes me happy. So it's very successful. Like I hope that your commission was happy with it, because I think it's beautiful, man. But I resonate with all your really dark shit too. So
Todd's a dark person. Todd's a dark person.
There's something about it, like the mural that you did on the garage door that you sent us. Yeah. Like, I love that stuff. Like, it's quirky and weird, and it's totally, I don't know. I can relate to it. It's kind of my mind digs deep into my mindset a lot of times,
That's good to hear. Yeah. It's funny when, saying that dark, and like you're talking about being so close to it, I'm still so close to it, but like, sometimes I don't see them as dark, but I have I've gotten that, and I get it based on like what my intent is and has been in the process of stuff, of painting. I have, there's a lot of chronic pain, physical pain, and emotion through that. So, when it's coming out, it's going to be, I guess so,
Right. Yeah. Well, and I hope I didn't offend you, because I just comparing to that one to comparing to this stuff that's on your website, it was like, oh, wow, that's completely different. And like you said, it was a shift in your process a little bit. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And the whole dark thing, or what that's, if I have a visceral emotion, or, that I like that, it's like, it's better than like, oh, it's nice, or like, or pretty, so.
No, I, I like that you're tapped into all your emotions, man.
Yeah.
I love that you have, I'm a fan of, underground comics and that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
me too, yeah, yeah.
And I guess I see kind of when I start looking at some of these drawings, I kind of relate it to that in some way. And a lot of times, like underground comics, they deal with like some dark stuff. So again, I hope I didn't offend you by saying dark shit, but um, I don't know. It resonates with me. I think it's probably some people would look at it and go, man, that's really weird. Like that guy's done way too many psychedelics or something, or,
Right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but seriously, I don't know. I find comfort in it. I guess part of me, it reaches back to my childhood. Cause that's when I was reading a lot of underground comics, and there's a lot of like statements being made in those comics. And I feel like if I stare and look at these drawings for a while, I start to see that thing that resonates with me. Like, oh, I get that. That's cool.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, yeah. It's a selfish act in a sort of like the process for me of like, so I don't think about other than kind of like balancing that suggestion and statement, like it's getting shit out, and it's how it comes out is how it comes out. And if it's real and honest, could be dark, could be whatever. And it's, it is what it is, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
And are these drawings, I mean, obviously they're meditative, but are they stream of consciousness, or is it thought out, or is it a little bit of both? Or how does that work, man?
So it's definitely not thought out in terms of the imagery, because it's mark making unconscious. I make a mark, I react to it and go from there. But then there's this moment in the work where you're shifting and turning, and something forms, and it might look like something. And then you're like, well, how can I move this? And I don't want to overstate it. And it moves around like that. It's kind of it's that moment where unconscious intuition meets conscious intellect, where it's like, where you start to analyze it and where do you go from there? So it's like the first half of it, or first part of it, however long it takes, can just be not scribbles, but marks, and, and not thinking about this is going to look like something. But there's a moment where it starts to, and then how much you hold on to it, and how much you maneuver around it, or, how much you kill it and let it go. So it's a constant process, I guess. And yeah, so since I was 11, I had a lot of physical pain, chronic pain. And through that process, I mean, I guess stepping back is like the moment I kind of like took art much more seriously and realized something magical about it was in very intense pain. And I decided to do a drawing a day for like a year. This was actually right before I went to grad school. The only time I didn't feel intense pain, physical pain, was making art. So I was like, I'm going to explore this. And I realized, I mean, either, through the process of letting this stuff go, I didn't feel anything, and, any pain. And I was like, well, maybe there's a reason. And, it could be the right, the correct reason or whatever. But it was this feeling of, well, I'm getting this stuff out, and I'm so, and then it goes much deeper into emotions and how they affect chronic pain, but like that's kind of where it started and became very important to me, So, yeah.
So that was a real catalyst right there.
Yeah. In all respects, it actually healed me from, chronic pain doing this. And that's a whole other, like John Sarno, other thing, but basically accessing these emotions that are been repressed and ended up being the root of the chronic pain. And this is something that, took me years of reading and understanding, but it was interesting to know how just by simply getting it out there, in a sense, healed me, which is weird.
So it wasn't just the physical part of painting that was relieving your pain. It's probably the mental aspect of the process that allowed you to pull some of that out, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a combination of both, but I have had multiple surgeries back and that, and like, after, someone handed me a book by this guy, John Sarno, and he's been healing people with chronic pain. And he's a doctor at NYU. He will be known soon, but he basically is saying that, in short, that the root of this pain is from childhood, trauma and repressed. And he said, this is the people who have it could be perfectionists. They could have this and this and this and this. I was like, oh, that's me, that's me, that's me. And it sounded very like by uprooting and basically bringing it to the surface and understanding, having your conscious self say it's okay to, that heals you. And it really, so I used art in a way for that, and it was amazing what happened. And it's an interesting thing. It wasn't the structural, and it wasn't, such it came down to just, it's like, even I was born with a cleft lip, and multiple surgeries as a child can be traumatic, and I feel, I had a good life. I felt like, but like, I also know myself and like to, and I've changed over the years, but I don't want to think about that. Or I realized like I hadn't cried in years, because, my grandfather died. I was mad at I was like, why am I not crying? And like these things, and not wanting to feel these things, they don't just disappear. They sit there. So this is a way, and it started to, understanding that, and understanding the, through that, reading that, I sort of understanding about, medicine and mind body connection that's so important, but understanding how emotions affect these things. And I think people think it's hard for physical people to imagine how emotional pain can manifest into physical, but you blush, and you ulcers, it's real, but it just seems, I think it's going to take some time for people to understand.
Right. So. No, I totally get that.
That's really interesting, man. I think that's cool that, you're tapped into something that I think a lot of people are just now trying to, like you said, figure out, especially in the Western world. But, your process is meditative, and that's like a key component. Like if people could glom on to that, as whether it's yoga or just regular meditation, or, your meditation is your art, but it plays a significant part in the well-being of a person.
Yes, and thinking about as much bad there is there, I feel like there can be some really good that might come out of this, in a way of like, right away people were like, oh, I started coloring again and drawing again, or I started meditating, and like access, things they don't have time for, to introspective, activities or whatever. People are starting to, and with that you connect, and you connect to yourself, you connect to others in a way, and you have this necessity in life, I think, that obviously is much harder for people to access now, especially information. But like, I feel like it's nice to see these, friends or on Facebook or on Instagram, or people like, oh, I started drawing. It looks like shit, but tell me what you think. Or like, and it's like, no, it's beautiful. It's amazing. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's great, Oh yeah. It's interesting.
I think you're right. I think when we've had this discussion the last couple episodes with different artists, but I believe that there will be some really phenomenal stuff that comes out of this period, and it affects people differently. And that's why I asked that question earlier, is, like, hey, nothing has changed for you as far as your creative process. Cause I know in talking with some other artists, that it's really hung them up, it weighs, this whole thing weighs heavy on them. And at least for a time, it really kind of stopped them in their tracks, and they were having a hard time like reconnecting and creating. So when you said that, I was happy to hear that this has been a very fruitful time, and definitely nothing has changed as far as the process of you creating art,
Yeah. I mean, that's just, it's, I guess with that, it depends on the process, I guess. But like, when I make art, there's nothing else there, So it's like, outside of the art, there's the world, this is going on, and this is important, and it might come out in the work. I don't know, but like that access of ability, that it's completely away from that world, but there are other artists who are political artists. There are other, or like conceptual and this and that. And I can't speak for them or any of it, but like, or even thinking, it's a way to escape it sometimes,
You mentioned something that just kind of, I keyed into for just a second. And it's a question I've been asking lately, especially because everything is so crazy. And I don't want to go down some political rabbit hole. If you don't want to, that's fine. But do you think artists right now, do you think they're doing their job in a good job by making statements with their art?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've seen stuff where people are like using it, like they see dollar signs and they're using it to capitalize sometimes, and and that's only, I could be wrong with that, but just my first thought. And then this is like there's a mural I saw on Facebook of the boxer who's the nurse, or and just like the real warriors, and like stuff is beautiful, and it brings, it's just a language and it's just a dialogue, it's like there's some beauty in that, in the hope, sometimes, and sometimes the work isn't that, whatever it is you're voicing something, that's your what you want to voice it about, and I think it is a nice thing to, bring people together and shed light on different things. And it's just another form of language and discussion that's not as much through words.
I didn't realize this until we started this podcast and we started talking to some muralists, the importance of community representation and murals. You drive by, you see mural, and so, if you're not really thinking about what it's trying to say, it's just art on a wall or whatever. But when you start having these conversations with artists, and then you realize how they're community driven, it's really powerful how communities can be impacted from just, art within their community. So this is good stuff.
Yeah. It's like, it's either like, talking to yourself, it's, in a sense, it's a language, like I said, it's talking to yourself with no one around, or you're voicing it to the world, or the passersby. And if they listen or they care to, they'll, it's a great thing. I'm really getting into these murals now more. I hadn't done before, but yeah, it's a great way to throw it in someone's face, in so many words, I guess.
Is it nice to work on such a large scale? I mean, you work in different scales all the time, but that's much larger than, normal. So
yeah, it's amazing. It's, talking about process, that I'm not working intuitively as much, so there's something nice to set it up, the idea, and then put it onto a wall, and, where I'm not worried, but like the outcome, you work on a piece this big intuitively, and it might take a day, it might take 3 months. You do that way, that size, multiply that. But like, there's something nice about that large and doing it. I like the hand painted part, not using spray paint, but like when you have that, end product already there and you just have to fill it in, I know what the outcome is. And it's going to be, it's like, I can work forever. I'm like, I can't wait to finish it. It's like this line could take a week or two, or like this thing, but I know what it's going to be. So it kind of motivates you. And it's a fun thing, it's big. I didn't realize how, when I was doing it, I hadn't done a mural in 10 years or something, but like, I forgot, it took me, because it was all just paint. It took me about a month and a half. I was spending 12 hours, but like this other guy came up, there was like a mural there and there next to it. And he's like, it was great. He's like, I did this mural. I was like, yeah. He's like, he's like, spray paint. Took me like 2 days. Like, all right, that makes sense. But like, to say learning a new process in this way is like, how can you cut corners in a way without showing it? But yeah, I love it. I want to do more. So I'm trying to, get that going,
Well, you live in the right city to do murals. That's for sure. Cause man, you guys really embrace the murals. It's awesome.
Incredible. It really is. Like, even being in New York and seeing, stuff. It's like this is a different story. It's like amazing. Go down Larimer Street or go down, and just it's just everywhere in the community and the people support it, and love it. It's great. Yeah.
Getting back to what you just said as far as community, how has been the community here in Denver? You've been here for how many years now?
Almost 2, I think. Going
Okay.
on 2, I think. Yeah. In terms of the art community?
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
obviously it's all screwed up now, but
yeah. Yeah.
but still people are finding their way. But yeah, prior to all this.
It's amazing. I mean, honestly, like, I guess I could say these first Fridays are great, and having, when I moved here and I didn't know, I was basically starting from scratch, no community of artists and all that. So the exposure to have once a month people coming in and looking at the work is great. There's some openness to people coming in to my studio and looking at the work, people who aren't artists, people who are artists, but there's a wall that's almost down where people will just come in and like, oh, that looks like this and this and this. Take 5 minutes to look at a piece, and I don't know why, or if it's, but like there's this engagement that it was there in New York. So, and I love New York for the art, but sometimes I felt there's a wall up in a sense of, they're not just enjoying the work itself. They're like, is this good enough? Or this, it just seemed a little harder for people to delve into. And I don't know if that's true. It's just a feeling of like, I've had a lot more people, who are artists, who don't make art, who are whatever it is, they're just like into it and they like to talk about it. And that's something that's like a big shift, or what I've noticed, a lot. I mean, it could be First Friday and alcohol, who knows? But like something, it could be, and other things, but it has been great. And the art community, like the people, who, getting to know artists, and, that was one of the things I really wanted is, that dialogue again, and to meet new artists, and, the ones I have, it's just like, it's nice. Yeah. The community is wonderful, I think.
I definitely have been missing First Friday this last couple months, man.
Yeah, me too. I almost want, it's like, I want it to happen. I also want to be careful, or like, hopefully maybe next First Friday, who knows, but in a couple. But yeah, it's fun. It's interesting being in the studio and not being able to go on the streets and look at all the other art, which is fine because I'd rather look at art without 8,000 people in the way. But like, it's the energy there is like 10, 20,000 people on the streets just looking at art. Special.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's spectacular. And it gets you jazzed, it gets you jazzed to get out and create.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I can't just sit on work. It's like, oh, next month I have a show. I got to make something different, and like, yeah, it's interesting. It's inspiring and motivating.
So you still have the studio at Bit Factory, right? The Bit Factory. Yeah. They call it Bit Factory Studios. Is that what they call it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So have you been going there and creating like you normally do, or?
I took a lot of, especially in the warmer weather, I want to take all my stuff and just go outside and work sometimes. So I have a place that, a little space outside where I live here, but also with that is I decided, I'm going to move a bunch of stuff into my apartment, and horrible decision in terms of like, and doing collage now. I have thousands of pieces of paper like laying around, so having to clean everything up. I was like, so now I'm starting to be like, all right, maybe I need to like go back to this, studio. Not like anyone's going to come in here, but like having a studio space is nice. I can make my mess there,
Right.
But I go back and forth. Like, I'm looking now, I'm like, look at all this shit here. But, but sometimes it's a weird thing, because I very much like a feel thing. It's like, I'll sit in the studio sometimes and like, I just don't I have to go back and work at home, or I'm at home, like I have to go to the studio. It's like, can't figure it out. I mean, who knows what ADD, whatever it is, but like, but I've been trying to stay home more.
But it's nice to have those options to like go create someplace else. Like when you're not feeling at home, you're like, yeah, I think I'll go to the studio today. And I think that's where I'm going to
Yeah.
create.
Sometimes it's like, I want to have my, studio where I live. And then other years I'm like, no, I can't do that. I want to have it, I want to have to go to it. And I feel comfortable now. And like, I guess it's sort of both, but, but having that option and also especially being new to Denver at the time, having a studio in another neighborhood was kind of cool. It's like I didn't have to go somewhere else and learn about that place. So yeah.
So when you go over there, which sounds like you've been working mostly outside or at your home right now, but when you go over there, do you see the other artists that have studios there as well?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a couple that are there, a decent amount, but a lot of the spaces, some of them aren't just artists as well. There's some businesses, but like, usually I'm not, I will work in the day, but I'm a late night. I'm usually the only one there. But like, if I am in there in the day, there's, 2 or 3 people that I see that they're coming there. Yeah. So
cool. So you've done a ton of shows, both, well, you've done them here in Denver, but also back in New York. Are you represented? Do you have gallery representation?
I have one. I have one in New York that actually got 6 months after I moved here. I got represented there, but I have one there. Yeah, and they do it's called Ruler Art Gallery, and they do shows where they also have a big online thing. So I have like my work up there and for sale. So, and then here I don't necessarily it has been a little bit hard. That's one of the things of trying to put your foot into a new scene, like, and partially it's my fault because you do have to do a lot of work, like finding the right gallery that's yours and talking. But like I don't have one here, but I've shown at the Bit Factory Gallery a number of times, although not represented there. So yeah.
And that's a great space. If you haven't checked out Bit Factory, whenever all this stuff chills out, Bit Factory is a great space. And the guy that owns it, Bill, he's
wonderful.
He does a good job. Like he's on it.
Yeah. And he's a very personable, like he's, and this is one of the talking about dialogue, like, talking about art, he's an artist as well. And like, he will be in his studio and, having a great to talk with about art and, with the person that owns that gallery. Yeah. It's cool.
How else do you sell your art? Is it people that know you? Is it people that, do you have collectors?
I do stuff online through my website. I've had I make some sales and through that other gallery. Also, people over the years that have liked my stuff that they'll, every once in a while, when they buy a piece. I've started making some sales through Instagram, which is amazing because I'm really bad at that. And yeah, and then through friends, and then through like friends of friends, and it's kind of spread out a little bit, and it's not, it's like a learning how the social media can really make sales. It's like a learning process, I guess. Yeah.
Almost every artist that we've talked to as of late seems like anybody that's on Instagram has seen some benefits from that particular social media platform.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, it is in terms of for art, artists should go there more than other areas, and like the hashtagging. And I mean, I'm still horrible at it, but like, it's amazing. You get little followers, you get people following you. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of a cool thing. And especially just kind of learning about how to market it, because I'm not, I'm sure every art, it's not my favorite thing in the world to do, but there is when you start to like throw things out and you get a little, bite is kind of neat and see, well, how did that work? And why did that work? And, it's exposure. However you get exposure, putting it on a wall, or, I really think that's, and making good work, I guess, and making but like to have this exposure for people and having people you don't know to follow you, something's going to come from it.
Yeah, and we've had we talked to John Lopez he's in Lemon, South Dakota, big sculptor, does kind of farm implement kind of sculptures, but his stuff is amazing. But he got invited to a show in Qatar, and he brought, what was it, like 5 pieces that they paid for, and it was all from Instagram. He got connected right from, they seen his work and they invited him. Exactly. And it's just an amazing story.
Yeah, it's great. It's I almost wish I jumped on that social media. I mean, earlier, because I think a year ago I learned what a hashtag was, and still like no idea if I'm doing it right. Double post, and but like.
And I'm not laughing at you, Dan. I'm laughing with you because I'm the exact same way.
Well, and they change stuff all the time. Facebook changes their algorithms and how they do stuff. And, I'm sure Instagram's the same way since they're owned by the same people, but you think you got to figure it out and something changes. So it's a never ending thing.
I didn't even realize, it's like, well, you shouldn't have more people you're following than followers. It doesn't work for this out. I'm like, I think I have maybe 300 followers on there. And it's like, I don't know how to get, to get more, but try it out. It's a, process of, trying, but yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I think you're right. I think part of it is having good work that you do, and just keep plugging away. It's like, a marathon and not a sprint. Kind of thing.
It's like this podcast.
Yeah.
we're every week.
Keep
plugging
along.
The sausage, man.
Well, you're guaranteed to get like at least one more following from my 200 friends that I have. So after this, so
awesome,
and we love every one of them.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny. Yeah, it's I think that about I've always been under the belief that the focus, sales, this stuff can come and go, but like if you're making your best work, something's going to happen. It's like if it's good, and if you're complete, and you really have friends or you have some exposure, it's going to happen. I'm not going to. There are artists that are amazing that don't make that much money, which is great. I'd rather have no money and make amazing work than the other, who knows. But I think sometimes there's a heavy focus on when and this isn't everyone, there are artists who are solely focused on, well, what's going to make me have a lot of views, and their work is dictated by that.
Right.
And money and this stuff, and it could work, and it could be the case, but doesn't necessarily. I feel like if that's the way, and maybe we should edit this later, is like, if that is the way, then I don't think the work is going to be as strong in a sense of what I value in art and what I think is good in art. It's like, I think about the thing I think about in terms of the audience is before. In terms of, it took me a while to understand, like making these 8-foot paintings or 7-foot or 6-foot paintings. One, it's a commitment. It's not like someone's like, oh, I'll just take that. Space is huge, important. And money. Understanding. Well, I've made $5,000 works, $8,000 huge works, and I made like $400 smaller. But like, where's the target audience in that? And well, where I am in a certain area is going to, some people don't have that. So maybe work some smaller pieces, or something that's, more people might, more want to grab, in that respect. Yeah, that's but like in terms of the process itself, and this is, it doesn't mean anyone's less of an art or whatever it is it's what I value. I feel like the stronger work is going to come from when you don't give a shit about other people,
Right. Yeah. And Lorenzo Chavez, he was saying like some years his big artworks sell, and then the next year all his little stuff and the big stuff won't sell. So it's, trying to second guess the people that's buying your stuff is, you're really kind of just pounding your head up against the wall. So I think the key is create good art, create art you respect and love for yourself, and the patrons will follow,
Yeah,
So.
just stay true to your vision and just do what you do,
Exactly. And you can always, it's like, you can always, if you have a piece if you really want to sell it, you can mark it down, it's like, it's like, I don't know. It's, it's interesting.
It is interesting. I've seen little things like, I get these things from this place, Art Storefront, and they are pushing because they're online art sales, they're pushing making a hard push right now for artists to get in with them and stuff, which is probably a good idea, but I don't know enough about them and I haven't done the research to figure out their whole spiel. But, they're claiming that they're seeing more, definitely more art online sales than ever. So if that's the case, that's pretty impressive that people are still out here in this time, still spending bucks on art. And I'm glad to see it,
Yeah, I'm curious about that too, because it's like maybe, and who knows, I'm just thinking about it now, it's like maybe that spike is because there's nowhere to go to buy it. And, and that's where it's spiking, or because in my mind, I'm thinking, who's going to have money to spend on art, something like art, it's like, I feel like this, I don't know, what the future, what it will be. I'm expecting not as many sales, but, because people have lost a lot of money and, those necessities, like,
take precedent, right?
Food and living, take priority, So, but yeah, it's interesting. I'd like to know, hopefully.
So during this last couple months, that commission, was that done before all this went down, or commissioned before it went down, or did that happen just recently?
It happened. I think it took me maybe a month to do, and I finished last week, I guess. Yeah. So it was during, so I had 2 commissions in the past, like, couple months, I think.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then a couple, I have like a little coloring book that's online. So I've had a couple, $10 sales here and there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that, because I think that's really cool. You actually got ahead of me, because I was going to ask where your price range was, but you just kind of explained that, but you actually, I think you're really smart, and you try to offer something for everyone. And one of those things is this coloring book. So talk to us about that.
I was telling you, when I was living in Portland before New York, I had this style of, these figures and bright, loud colors. So like I said, I did like drawing a day for a year, and applied. Then I hadn't really done that style in so long, but I think it was 2017 or so, I started noticing these coloring books became pretty big, adult coloring books. And I was just kind of thinking, I had someone ask me or something, like they were saying something about how they would do it, like the color, I was like, well, maybe it'd be cool to do this. And I took basically, I don't know, 15, 20 of those old drawings and redrew them in black and white, and made a coloring book, and it was kind of like this kind of feel, we were talking before about, feel like I'm a big proponent of being able to access that, having these spaces where you can go within, introspect, meditate, where time doesn't, these, what we were talking about. And I feel like there's people who sort of like to coloring, and I wanted to kind of support that, you know, in a sense, and like offer something whereas like you can escape the world for a little bit and, you know, within these confinements, within these lines, because, and just color. And it was kind of a fun, yeah, it was kind of fun to see and do. I like seeing how other people, like I'll have them in, you know, coffee shops here and there, and, you know, put crayons out and have look and come back and see people coloring in and or how it's come in and stuff. And people on Facebook will send, you know, show me what they've done. And yeah, it's cool. It's fun.
I bet, man. That sounds pretty exciting. I didn't think about I was thinking more along the lines that you're, producing this art in a color book form and people are buying it and obviously they're coloring it. But I didn't think about the fact that, seeing what they create with your art, that collaboration, that's pretty exciting. That's pretty cool. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's fun. I think there was, I guess after I did that mural, and this was like, after I did the mural, I started thinking about like, be kind of neat to, basically I took those coloring books though and learned how to wheat paste, and I took a big, maybe 5x5 coloring page and pasted it on Santa Fe, on Larimer, a couple different ones with like a bucket of like markers and crayons, and just wrote something about coloring away. So people, would come by. I mean, I had to replenish it like, every 4 days because people will throw the markers, but it's kind of worth it. But see what people do. So like on the streets, there's my coloring book with, it's for me and for them, but like people just stop and like stop what they're doing and color and see what happens,
That's an awesome experiment, man. That's really cool that you've been doing that.
Yeah, it's fun.
And so you repurpose kind of your artwork from your daily drawings that you were doing before you went to grad school, right? And then you kind of repurposed them into this coloring book, or were they brand new drawings as well?
They were repurposed. I found like that style they're a little more accessible in terms of like they're poppy and they're fun and, and I hadn't done it in 10 years. And I was like, oh, it's not, and it's hard. Never going to be able to, if I really wanted to, I could probably get back to that old way, but I was like, I can reuse this. And I feel like for street art or stuff like that, it works for that. So it's like, why not just take those?
Yeah, that's super smart. I mean, the fact that you're, I like that. That's a great idea. I never would have thought of that.
Yeah. For a little while, I was like, so it's just not me anymore or whatever. I was like, fuck, it's like, it's not about me. It's that work, and it's like, it works in that way. And the whole thing about, this is a completely evolving thing. What was there then is not worse or different, than what it is now. It's just, it is what it is. So, I think if I do more, hopefully I get to do some more murals and stuff, I'll start doing it, a different way. But right now I'm just obsessed with the collaging and all that stuff. So, yeah.
So if somebody wants to, while they have all this time on their hands, if they want to get one of your coloring books, how do they go about doing that? And how much do they sell for?
I think it's like $11. I have to look again. Amazon.com. If you look up either my name in Amazon or Teetering the Line, it's called TETERING, Teetering the Line, an adult coloring book, and just go to Amazon and click a button, I think.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Have you generated a lot of sales off Amazon doing that sort of thing?
It'll go in waves, and I also found like if I were to like say, hey, check out this coloring book, which I, on social media, I'll get a couple more sales, and then also I always have them during the first Fridays open studios. So I sell a couple each time, that month, in that month. And so I think, those are basically the two ways, Yeah, I mean, it makes it's not like a ton of money, but like, a couple sales.
You didn't just buy a new Ferrari?
Yeah, I bought like one of those matchbook Ferraris, I think, for three of those book sales. So yeah.
No, but that's cool. I think it's smart. I think it's smart when artists have multiple things that they do to, help generate income revenue. So I
Yeah.
think the coloring book is a great thing. And you know what? We'll promote it. I'll promote it heavily this next week. We'll see if you get a little spike in sales or not.
Perfect. Yeah, definitely. And also, I forgot to mention you're talking about the business. Uh, just now or this week, I decided in terms of thinking about promoting as on the website, I'm getting an e-commerce page set up, and I'm curious to how, because I feel like sometimes just a quick click of like, if you want to buy something, throw it, instead of like my website going to it and, it takes a second to be like, oh, it looks good. And that, but like if there's a little button, so I'm trying it out. So it should be up in 2 weeks, we can, something like that.
Nice. Sweet. So what kind of things will you offer on there as far as, I mean, obviously besides the, maybe prints or original works, are you going to offer prints?
I think I'm going to start doing that. I talked to someone at the Bit Factory Studios, and he makes his studio rent on First Friday just from $20 prints, 30, and not just that. It's like I want people to have access. So I think I'm going to do some, small prints, $20, $40, whatever, and then sales from, 250, 300 and up. So kind of a big wide range, selling, those drawings to anything, and just kind of see what happens.
Right on. That's cool.
I know Joe Ziegler does that, and I think he does pretty well selling prints, of his black faces of art. And
it's smart. It's smart, and I didn't think about it until we talk about like the audience and what they want, and a lot of people on First Friday also, it's like they don't want to lug, or they just want, but like to have that price point from low to high is pretty important.
Yeah.
So people can see it and have it.
Yeah. Is there anything that's coming up in the future that you'd like to talk about? I assume any exhibits that you may be a part of or have coming up are probably either going to be virtual or have been postponed for the moment. Has that happened to you? I know other artists have been in that situation.
Yeah. I have. This is first time I have nothing coming up. Which is fun. It's also kind of a nice space to just focus on the work. But yeah, so I'm sure hopefully things will start going soon. But like, nothing I can think of in the works. No.
I think the online e-commerce aspect of your website, I think that's awesome. I think what a perfect time to be focusing on that sort of thing. Those little things that if First Fridays were going on and, everything was normal, you'd probably be like, whatever, or that would be me. So now's the time to kind of focus on those things.
It's like you think about, and this is not, it's like these situations on the surface and as real as they are force you to change things, and think of things differently. So yeah, it's like I probably wouldn't have thought about that until, this situation. Yeah.
As a photographer, I have favorite photographers. As an artist, are there other artists that you like looking at their work or that you resonate with? Or
yes, definitely. Influence from painters, musicians, a lot of, I have, like, de Kooning, I definitely love. But Bryce Martin, in terms of like more known, I guess, Bryce Martin and Helen Frankenthaler. I really like Cecily Brown and Marlene Dumas, Philip Guston. I mean, I can go on, and then influences. Music is really big for me, and people I think I wish I could do my art like they make their music. This from Tom Waits, I'm a huge fan, and raw, dirty, gritty, and like, and then there's a hip hop artist, Aesop Rock, who is like, I can listen to one song for 500 times and get new things. He's so condensed and metaphorical. He has so much, just gets your mind going. I think so. I can go on and on, but yeah, those are a few of them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned music because, like I said, I have favorite photographers. Obviously, like you have favorite artists, but music for me is almost sometimes even more inspirational, and I resonate with probably even more so. I'm like, I'm a huge audiophile, and music is a huge part of my creative process. And just having that that soundtrack in your mind all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's cool. And I'm glad you shared some of your favorite artists because I always like to be turned on to other people that I've never heard of, and that's what's kind of fun talking with other creatives is getting turned on to other things that you're not aware of.
Yeah, definitely. Barnaby Furnace. Yeah. There's a lot of them, but yeah, it's cool. And yeah, music is a whole other element of like, in terms of while I'm making or just like listening to. Yeah, it's art, creativity. It's art. It's just another way.
Sounds like you have a wide range of taste in music too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I feel like there's so much there, different styles, different, and like, there's so much good stuff there, there's also not so good, but like, I feel like the more you do anything or into anything, the more knowledge and more you'll want to learn about different things and different ways, and definitely a lot of different music, that, either in the listening to while I'm making or just appreciating like how fucking genius these people are, how different they are. And yeah.
I had an art teacher when I was in high school that we'd have free flow art where he would just put on some music and then have us close our eyes and you'd have like whatever kind of crayon or whatever. And you would just kind of draw with your eyes closed, listening to the music. And that, I mean, so when you were talking about how you're kind of free flowing, it just popped in my, and I hadn't thought about that in decades, so it's interesting.
That's a great teacher. Yeah. I did blind drawing for, it's like, if I get rid of that analytical, it's like, that's great. That's a good teacher right there.
What was the last album that you bought? I'm dating myself because I called it an album.
Yeah, I bought Spotify.
Or download or whatever.
Actually, the new, I was talking about Aesop Rock. His new album is the last thing I download. Yeah, probably. Yeah. This guy, you should check him out if he can. He's pretty much a genius. He actually went to SVA actually, which I found out later, but he's something special, that is underground. Like you said, like, I feel like it's hard to compare like on another level, in terms of, his lyrics are just like, if anyone hasn't heard, you can listen to, within a line, within 2 lines is like a wealth of like information. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. And he does it in a way that's more accessible. Yeah. So that guy, that was the last one. I think, I'm trying to think of the other ones. I'm constantly trying to like put in other ones, but yeah, it's a lot.
Do you watch television at all?
Yeah.
Have you been binge watching anything? We want to know what you've been binge watching.
Well, I think the Michael Jordan documentary is the thing I've been getting, I don't know if you know about it, but
I've heard it, but I haven't watched it yet. So you suggest
either?
It's great. And I'm a huge college basketball fan. Like that's and he happened to go to UNC, go Tar Heels. So, but just like if you're into sports or if you're not, doesn't even matter, because see someone who's so good, the best in the world, forget whatever at what he does, and in the mind of him, and like is just special. It's interesting, and talk about art. Look at his stuff flying through. Slow motion or just watching what he does. That's an art, Yeah. So that one, Ozark, of course, and there's so many, they tend to blend together now. But like, I have been watching this. I'm sure you Art 21. Do you know?
No, I don't think I've seen that one.
Basically, it's on PBS. It's a PBS series, and they have years, but like contemporary artists, 15 minutes each sketch of their process, and basically like this condensed and showing them through. And these well-known, you know, from photography to sculpture to anything, and they have themes of like, you know, time or, you know, political, you know, but like that's something that's, if you haven't seen that, yeah, definitely Art 21. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another one called Abstract that's really good. That's on, I think, Netflix, and all different genres. I think there's even like tennis shoe designers or something. I think, if I'm thinking of the right one, that was really good.
Speaking from not seeing or seeing some of them, like this Art 21 is brilliant. I mean, if you're an artist and are fascinated with the process, or even if you don't understand, you know, works that I don't really understand why they're doing this or what, or if you're not that into, it's like, oh, now you kind of get it and you have another appreciation for, you know, and I love seeing process, you know, like that stuff and artists talking. So that's a good one. And then some others that are too embarrassing to mention. So, yeah.
Hey, I watched Dance Academy with my wife, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, got my image to uphold. I can't tell you about
Another documentary that I think is superb is The Mind of Bill Gates, or something like, I think that's what it's called, The Mind of Bill Gates. God, man, that dude is brilliant. And I knew he was brilliant, but holy smokes, it's really good.
Check that out. Yeah.
Thank God for Netflix and documentaries and binge-worthy shows.
Yeah. It's interesting to see. You know, it's like, this is what half of Facebook and Instagram now is like. What should I watch? Or have you seen this? You know, it's fun. It's good. Yeah, there's a decent amount to watch, to say the least.
Yeah. That's for sure.
So Dan, we'll start to wrap this up, but if people want to see your art, purchase your art, where would they go to find that, see that?
So yeah, I mean, my website is one, and soon there'll be an e-commerce, but for now there's a little page to click on my contact and email me, which is dandrossmanart.com. So I guess it'll be on that link, you know, that's one way. And then, you know, through this Ruler, RULER Ruler Art isn't the gallery in New York. And hopefully soon, you know, and, you know, the first Fridays I'm at Bit Factory, 851 Santa Fe, you know. So yeah, email me, call me, come to my place, whatever.
Awesome. I'll make sure all that stuff's in the episode description.
Right.
Man, I'm so glad we got the opportunity to sit down with you tonight and rap. You're a person I've been wanting to talk to for a long time, and I felt like I was harassing you there for a while. It's like every first Friday, hey man, you want to do a podcast? Hey man, you want to do a podcast? The timing either didn't work out or whatever, but I'm glad that you were willing to do it, and it's nice to see your face. You're one of those people that whenever I see you, it makes me happy to see you. Like, we always have a good conversation, even if it's just brief, and you got a great smile. So you always brighten my day when I see you. So I'm glad we had the opportunity to sit down and talk for an hour or two.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice. Yeah, of course I wanted to do this. Yeah. It's always definitely nice seeing you. I think you guys are doing a great job, especially, you know, someone for me, not the best, or I don't like discussing, you know, my work or this stuff, but you made it good at what you do. So it's great.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Definitely. Yeah. And hopefully we'll see each other in 3D, you know, sometime after this stuff goes, you know. So yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. Well, hey, for the Tenant Podcast, this is Todd Pearson.
This is Wes Brown.
Thanks for listening.